Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, we don't even.
All right, I would like to call this meeting to order, and we have the Pledge of Allegiance. According to the attendance present, we are up to and going to thoroughly enjoy our audit report. Welcome tonight. And please, Susan M. Peters is our auditor from Cooper Areas tonight.
We came in and we performed the audit. We're looking at the audit, we're not looking for fraud, we're looking for to make sure that if anyone looks at the financial statements, they wouldn't be misled. We look at internal control, we assess compliance, and if you need a single audit, we would do a single audit. And we're not required to have a single audit if you're under $750,000 of federal funds, so you weren't required to have them. If you look at the second page, it's actually page 3 of the handout, the general fund, the total fund balance decreased $209,000. It's been down $3 million since 2011. We were getting that down. The reserves remain the same. You did remove $150 from the unemployment reserve and moved it to the employee benefit accrued liability. That's the only activity really that occurred in the reserves. Your appropriated fund balance decreased $300,000. That's what you appropriate towards next year's budget. You had decided to reduce that, and in the next year you have as well. Last year was $500,000. It exceeds your unassigned fund balance by $129,000 at this point. That could be a potential budget hole if there's not enough funds to fund that. We'll go over that in one of the next charts. Your non-spendable increased $40,000. When you have a deficit in the school lunch, it's like reserved. You can't, it's called non-spendable, but because that money has to be set aside if something would happen to put toward that money. So that's something you have to consider too when you're budgeting. You do have that as well to consider. The general fund, the unassigned fund balance decreased $200,000. Like I said, your unassigned fund balance at the end of the year was $70,000. That's 0.41% of next year's budget. And you can see the next 2 years. You're well below the statutory limit of 4%. You've been able to use reserves to keep the unassigned fund balance below the 4%, and from becoming a deficit in prior years. It was a little bit higher this year. You need to just reverse the annual decreases before, otherwise if you continue to have decreases, there won't be any fund balance up, so just keep monitoring. The next page shows what you had appropriated. First column is what you had appropriated in the last several years, and then what your actual net income or loss was. And then your appropriated fund balance, you're budgeting to have a deficit because you're planning on using what's in fund balance. And then the income or loss. And so you can see how you actually performed what you had planned to do, which is the appropriate fund balance, and the percentage of the budget for that year. As I said, the fund balance has decreased in the last 6 years. The next one shows you the total fund balance each year, and your restricted fund balance, and then the unassigned fund balance. So you can see the percentage of next year's budget has decreased in the last several years. You've been able to use, if something happened, you do have reserves that you could use as a safety net. You've been watching your budget very carefully. You've been staying within the budget. It hasn't been, you haven't really over budgeted. That's a good thing. Just keep watching it that you don't go too low. The next page shows your final fund balance for each of the last 5 years and what you actually spent with your encumbrances, and then how much the expenditures were under budget. and a percentage. Like I said, your budget has been very accurate. You can see for the last how many years it's been very close. The next chart, this shows your total fund balance and your restricted fund balance. And you can see what the trend has been through the last 5 years. And as fund balance decreases, it's very important to have reserves. The next chart shows your unassigned fund balance and your appropriated fund balance. You really want your unassigned fund balance to be higher than your appropriated. You have been lowering your appropriated, which is the right trend that you want to take. So we've been working on that, and just try to get the unassigned fund balance back up closer to 4%, because you never know what can happen in the future. You want to make sure you have a little bit of a cushion there. The school lunch, as I said, the operating deficit, there was a $40,000 deficit. It's very difficult, very common, especially for small districts. You have this overhead no matter what. You don't have as many students as other districts have, so you do have losses because of that. You have to decide if you want to increase prices, which is very difficult, or you may have to fund it with a general fund. So that's something you as a board have to decide what you want to do in the future. The next chart shows the trend that the school lunch has been taking. And you can see from 2013 to 2017, the way it is right now at this point. Just monitor that very closely. I know you've already made changes. This year you can see there was more profit, more gross income. You have been able to do some other things with the cafeteria that you're working with. I know you're still continuing to do that, so keep trying. You're not the only district that has this problem. In the financial statements, there's 2 letters. The one is a management letter. That is where we would put anything if we had any comments. You did not have any comments. Anything that we did find, we discussed with the business office. There was very minor things, just verbal comments. There was nothing written that had to be in there. There's also the SAS 114 letter, and that is where we show you what we think is important that you need to see. That just go over that, look at that. If you have any questions, call us in the office. You received an unmodified opinion on the financial statements. That means that everything is in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. You did meet all the requirements that you have to do. The audit went fairly smoothly. Next year, the GASB pronouncements, we have GASB 75 is coming up. That's going to replace GASB 45. That's the post-retirement health insurance. Right now, it's advertised over 30 years. Next year, it's going to be the full amount. It's going to be on the front financial statement. So where the accruals are, it's going to look like you have even more negative net assets than you do now, because that whole cost is going to be shown there. Every district is going to have the same problem. So it's going to look like that. The bonding companies will know that. But just so you know ahead of time, that's what's coming up. So we're going to look at that. One of the other things in the front financial statements, last year, TRS, we did have a net asset, pension asset. This year, because they changed the percentage rate, just 0.5%, now there is a liability instead. So if you look at the financial statements, you see why there was a big asset last year and there's not for pension. It's because their actuaries changed what percentage rate they were using, so now it is a liability. There's nothing, it doesn't affect your funding, your fund accounting, it doesn't affect your budgeting, but they are saying that the discount rate is lower, so you are going to have a liability, much more high liability than what they anticipated last year. So just so you know what that is, we'll have some questions for that. Do you have any other questions?
Questions? Thank you for our modified opinion. I love that. That's great. Congratulations to everybody being involved in the unmodified opinion. We do play it very close to the collar, and we do punch every penny. So
Yes, we do. Yes.
we do. You've seen that from other schools, haven't you, compared to us?
Right. So it's, just keep watching it. It is a very difficult thing to master the budgeting and figuring out what you need to have. So it's not a perfect, there's no perfect science to it. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you very much. are going to have public comment on the consent agenda at this point, and that is limited only to what is under the consent agenda at this time. Yes?
Just on the correct agenda.
Can you introduce yourself for everybody?
What?
Your name?
Paul Clark.
Just for everybody in the audience, I know your name.
I just want to correct the agenda. There is another communication. I emailed the board sometime last week and asked for some minutes were missing from the archive. Those minutes were produced very quickly, although I did not receive an email back from the board. So whoever found them out fast and put them back in, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other commentary on the consent agenda? Okay. I would like to introduce to you Dr. Morgano. He's not going to stand up yet. I'm just going to tell about him right now. He is part of our consent agenda to be our new interim superintendent. I'd like to tell you a little bit about him. He is no stranger to the responsibilities of the superintendent, having served at Pearl River School District in the capacity of superintendent for 2011 until his retirement in 2014. He also served as Pearl River's assistant superintendent from 2003 to 2011. Prior to his 11-year tenure at Pearl River, he worked as an administrator in Minnesink Valley and Monroe-Woodbury school districts, as well as serving as the coordinator of Special Education Training and Resource Center, fondly known as CETRIC, at Sullivan BOCES. He began his educational career in 1974 as a teacher of special education at an intermediate school on Staten Island. He has also worked as an adjunct professor of education at Mount St. Mary College. Dr. Morgano is eager to take on new challenges at Eldred. He says, and I quote, "I think there are a lot of very hardworking people at Eldred, and the students do well there. I'm looking forward to working with kids again." A former resident of Sullivan County, Dr. Morgano is familiar with the area. He's lived in Liberty and Jeffersonville in the 70s and in the 80s, and he remembers going fishing with his son at Eldred Preserve, at the Eldred Preserve. Dr. Morgano received his doctoral degree in administration and supervision from New York University. He holds a Master of Science in Special Education, as well as a Certificate of Advanced Study in Administration and Supervision from the State University of New York at New Paltz. He graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree in History Education from the College of Staten Island and the University of New York. Dr. Morgano will assume his new duties on October 23rd. He looks forward to working with Dr. DeFore to assure a smooth transition in leadership. He also looks forward to meeting with members of the Eldred community during a series of planned casual get-togethers. He's going to have an open door policy. So with that, I would like to call for a vote. Is there any discussion here on the consent agenda? Okay.
Do you want me to ask the questions, or do you want to vote on for discussion, or?
Well, I guess we can take a motion.
I'll make a
second.
motion.
Thank you.
Can I second for discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, so some of these are just picky, and Lisa, please don't, I mean, I was in your shoes, so I know what it's like. But 501, so I assume this means approval on the recommendation of the superintendent to approve Kezia Buddha for the following :
For the following, for substitute.
for the following : da-da-da.
Okay.
Then 502, Vicky again, on the recommendation of the supervision to rescind the following appointment. Now, 504 and 505. Please tell me that the directors of both of these are our music teachers.
The director of the fall musical and the assistant director are music teachers, and the director and the assistant director of the spring musical are Connie Loretto and Beth Kieran, two members of our community who are eminently qualified to perform those positions.
So, okay, Claudio Loretto is not a music teacher.
Actually, both of those individuals are music teachers.
Not our music
They're just
teachers.
not ours.
Right, they're from other districts.
I know that.
I meant to comment on this, and I apologize, because I'm so excited about Dr. Morgana. But Mr. Loretto and Ms. Dearman are both here in the audience, and I just want to congratulate you guys, because it's pretty cool to do something differently like this, where you have parents of young children who also are professionals in the trade, outside of our normal faculty, contributing to do something like this. And it's not a lot of money, it's a lot of work. So anyway, thank you and congratulations.
So why are we hiring music teachers?
I'm sorry?
Why are we hiring music teachers then?
To teach music.
This is
Isn't
not
this-
part of their contract.
They are,
This has always
we
been
try
extra.
to report individuals that are going to perform these duties.
Let me just say for the record that it was always the music teacher was responsible for it. And please tell me that Todd Lance is one of our art teachers.
No, he's not, he's a community member.
That's another example of where Mr. Lance is a professional artist who lives in our community and has volunteered to come in. I think these are great when you have community members coming in to work in our school in situations like this. I understand your concern, but I think this is fantastic.
This is nothing but good.
Yeah, and I think we should have more of it.
506 and 507, I assume this means approval upon the recommendation of the Board of Education?
Yeah, that's what it says. But it's part of the consent agenda, which is why I read
It says approval upon the recommendation of the Board of Education,
approval upon the okay, so the word recommendation is missing.
of the Board of Education. Is approved and effective October 23rd, 2017 period. 507 upon the recommendation of, to further resolve .602 of the following revisions of NISBA recommended plural policies. And again, I'm sorry, I guess I'm old fashioned, it's just for all the years that when we put the musicals together, it was always done by, it's in the contract, and we were hired to do that, direct the musicals.
The only thing I can say,
understand-
Mrs. Bose, is that, as a parent who has kids that are involved in musical programs, the kids do a lot of things with the music teachers during the day. They start early in the morning before school starts. They
Which is
have music
another
throughout the day. And I think, by the end of the day, when the practices come along, and they practice in the evening hours for extended periods of time for these musicals, it's an awful lot of work. And so it's additional stipend above and beyond anyway. And I think that there's an opportunity to have somebody from our community come in and do it. It serves two purposes. They do a fantastic job with it, but also it's a bridge between our school and the people in our community.
I understand that, that they're more than welcome to work with, on the musical. I think that's wonderful, go with that also. This is just the way I feel, and I'm
And 2 out of our 3 music teachers are untenured, and they need to focus on their teaching responsibilities and master that craft first.
Well, that's how I feel.
Thank you, Linda. I would like to call for the vote on the consent agenda unless there's any other discussion. Ms. Wagner
Yes.
and Mr. Siegel.
Say yes with particular distinction for the appointment of Dr. Morgana. Welcome, Dr. Morgana. This is very exciting, and absolutely yes.
Ms. Bose. Did you want to take that out and vote separately on it? I
No. Yes.
Mr. Bluefoot?
Yes.
Thank you, and I will vote yes. And now we can officially say,
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
so is there any old business? Any new business? Any further public comment? Yes. Oh, jumping. Yes. Say who you are, please, and where you're from?
Hi, my name's Debbie Taroni, and I'm from Hondetti, New York. This is my daughter, Cassandra Schweikart, and my 2 grandchildren attend this school. Since late last year, school term, my granddaughter, Miranda, has had a bullying problem with one of the other students in this program. It wasn't reported last year, but it has been reported this year. And we feel as though Miranda has been punished needlessly, being switched on the bus to a different seat, being separated from a good friend of hers that they are just very good friends, and then they wanted to switch her out of her program. It's my understanding, in raising my 4 children, not in this school district though, as a community, we raise our children. Parents work. Usually both parents work. We send our children very early in life off to daycares, preschools, elementary school, middle school, high school, for everybody else to raise, including ourselves. Collectively, we raise our children together as a community, because that's what it takes to raise our children. I send my children to school knowing that they're going to be safe. What ends up happening is my granddaughter is not safe. My daughter never learned how to fight this fight for her children, so here I am with her. She's tried 4 phone calls to the superintendent of schools. No return phone calls. I called you myself 2 days ago. I have yet to hear from you. Multiple phone calls to the principal with runarounds. We're having a meeting with the parents. We're doing this. Oh, we're going to separate these 2. Why? They're not the problem. Why are we treating a victim as if she should be punished? That is unfair, and it's uncalled for, and I'm angry, quite honestly. I have a very good granddaughter who is meek, quiet, doesn't bother anybody, loves everybody, even likes this girl. No retaliation from these children. My older granddaughter stuck up for her sister online because this kid was online on a game, threatening my granddaughter, calling the house, saying that she's her boyfriend. She is 8 years old.
Mrs. Torney, I thank you for this, and I thank you for bringing it to the attention, if it has not already been brought, as you say it has. I appreciate that. It needs to be resolved. You need to work with Dr. DeFore and with, I imagine it's elementary school.
If we can get a meeting with her, we've asked for this. I want a meeting. When do we get a meeting?
I checked with my secretary, I have no record of a call. I'm not saying you didn't call. I have no record of a call.
Well, I have record of the phone call, and I'll be happy to show you that. I will have a printout by AT&T by tomorrow to bring it to your office and prove that we have called multiple times.
I'm not saying you did not call. Okay, I don't have the message on my phone.
So when would I get a phone call? I'll be happy to give you my name and phone number right now.
My secretary is taking it down. I will call you tomorrow afternoon because I'm out of the office in the morning.
That's fine. I'm available all day tomorrow.
Okay.
We want to get this resolved. Thank
Do
you.
you want my phone number? 845? Oh, I don't care. Everybody can call me. 728 2524. Thank you.
Any other comments, public comment? I see a hand there, I don't see a face. There you go, Ms. Tedeco.
Hi, I'm Jenny Dudko. I am a taxpayer in the district, but also I also substitute in the district. I'm a longtime employee of the district. For evil to flourish, it only requires good men to do nothing. So said Simon Wiesenthal, the Jewish-Austrian Holocaust survivor. I have a 60-plus year association with the Eldred Central School, having started as a kindergartner in the system in 1955. I may be the old timer. I graduated in 1968 and returned to teach here in 1972. And for most of that time, I have been tremendously proud of Eldred Central School. I'm a little ahead of Linda Bowes. However, now my heart is heavy for the direction that the school has taken. We used to stand for excellence, When our students applied at colleges, a diploma from Eldred meant something, and extra points were awarded to an applicant from Eldred. But now, we have a board that sometimes boasts that its most important claim to fame is recess. I've thought and prayed long and hard about addressing use, but please hear me out. Number one, we should be in the business of raising children who will grow into independent, conscientious adults. When I would sit with parents at report card time, I always said that grades are important, but not nearly as important as the human qualities that measure the kind of person that he or she is becoming. Things like listens and follows directions, handles responsibility without constant adult redirection, completes work on time, organizes one's own work, shows respect for other children and adults, works and plays well with others, pays attention to the task at hand, cleans up work area, ability to handle frustration and setbacks, and things like that. I don't care how smart you are. If you can't get along with others and can't handle responsibilities, you won't make it in life. For the school setting should be all about preparing children to succeed in this thing called life. By the same token, you may not be the smartest person in class, but if you can get along well with others and you are conscientious and keep plugging along, you will be successful not only in school, but you will be a valued employee and happy person later in life. But somehow we no longer seem to care about these things. Number two, we seem to no longer trust our teachers to do their jobs. Instead of trusting them to know when their students need a break, now you're dictating when a break should be had, how long, and who should have those breaks. We have an excellent, dedicated staff. So why have we taken those decision-making from the student, from when the students need and when out of their hands? It's never as simple as every student needs 30 minutes now or 15 minutes now. Some students might need 5 minutes every hour, some need 15 minutes twice a day. Others can go much longer. Let the people with the children decide. Number three, we no longer are holding our students accountable for their actions or for their work. And so we are raising a generation of people who are going out to college and the work world that are unprepared and having a very stilted and unfair idea of what will be expected of them. They need to be responsible and they need to know how to do their work. I've read all that research about the importance of recess and play. I was an early childhood expert and former kindergarten teacher, and so no one knows and understands the importance of play better than I. But when you put play or any other single item is more important than a person's sense of responsibility or purpose for being, we begin a downward spiral. What started as a worthy goal has had unintended consequences. Rather than trusting the people who are in the situation, working with the children to make the best decisions for the children, you are now selling their education short to the students' detriment. Let me give you an example. One day last year, I was in an intermediate classroom. I collected their homework. Only 7 of over 20 students had completed their work. When I asked where the rest was, their response was, "It doesn't matter, Mrs. Dutko, everything's different now. Nobody cares this year. We don't have to do the work anymore. It used to be when homework wasn't done, you finished your recess. But now you don't have to finish work, even in class, because there's no time to do it." This was the way they had interpreted the new program. We don't mean for it to be that way, but that was their interpretation of it. And when there was those few that weren't even attempting to complete the classwork, telling me, why should I? It doesn't matter if I do my work or not. Sometimes what starts out as a good idea has what I call unintended consequences. When you implement a policy rigidly, where the people in the situation have no flexibility to adjust it. I have a close friend who teaches adult ed at our BOCES here in Sullivan County, and he also teaches in the county jail. We go each year to the Rockland County Home Show. There he asks home trade employees what skills they're looking for when hiring workers. After asking 30-plus bosses, only 2 talked about things like how to use tools. The other 30 talked about things like show up for work, come to work on time, and take responsibility. Don't worry about how much time off or breaks you get. All emphasize They are no longer getting young people coming to them with any sense of responsibility or work ethic. If they would only come to work with that, these bosses could easily teach them the work skills they would need. Dr. DeFore often shares with us on staff research articles he comes across. A recent one referred to an article by Medical Director Francis Jensen in talking about brain research done on adolescents, an area that interests me greatly. In adolescence, skills such as attention, task completion, self-discipline, and controlling emotions are still inefficient. So how much less in younger children? Therefore, I contend that we need to be helping our students develop these skills, not ignoring them by setting them up to fail, by putting them in situations where there are no consequences for their actions or ignoring their behaviors or decision-making. This is a growth process, and we need to be constantly helping them succeed in these areas by expecting our students to put forth their best efforts. Lastly, let me share a few quotes from a recent Times Herald Record article, in case you missed it. Again, it speaks to the problems that mid-Hudson employers are having finding good workers. For, isn't one of the goals of education to prepare our children to one day enter the workforce successfully? Jack Pennings, an employer, said, "My rules for new hires seem simple. Have basic skills, arrive on time, follow directions, be polite. Pay and responsibilities will increase with experience." People used to know how to do more when they started. Now we even teach them how to drive a truck and weed whack, and they don't show up a lot. Adam Powers said, "I have trouble finding unentitled people. I've had to sweep a bathroom and pick up garbage and change a light bulb. I asked the employee why, and he said, I didn't think it was part of my job." Frank Phelan said, "Young workers nowadays can't concentrate. They lack attention to detail, and they expect quick fixes when they need fortitude and patience to solve tough problems." He fears that teachers are preoccupied with test scores, like nothing else matters, and they coddle students by constantly reminding them to complete assignments and letting them arrive late and disregard deadlines. This produces younger workers who don't know how to act to do their jobs. If you're not willing to learn how to do things fast and how to have motivation for it, it makes you less likely to do or keep your jobs. And so in closing, I would say that if we refuse to hold our children accountable for their actions, and by teaching them there are no consequences for their actions, something as simple as the day we said, it no longer matters what your behavior or work completion is. Everybody earns recess every day. We are now feeding into the very problem we're seeing in our large society. We're handicapping our children's future success. Thank you, please.
Thank you. And Mr. DeFore, thank you so much for your service. It means a great deal to us, and congratulations. Welcome aboard. Okay, we're still on public comment. Ms. Kutcher.
Hello, Joanna
Let's
Desmond.
everybody, let me speak to the entire room. Let's everybody keep these short and sweet because we want to welcome this young man today, okay? Before he gets any older. Okay, I'm just Hey, I'm old. I can say that, I'm old.
Joanna Dutcher, Berryville. I was just wondering if the board as a whole knows what a LAP school, focus school is. Like a focus district, LAP school.
Yes.
I'm just asking because I know that there's a lot of push as a board member to opt out of the testing. I'm not here to say that testing 3 to 8 is good or 3 to 8 is bad, but I'm just saying that as a teacher, going to a conference this summer with the New York State Educator Commissioner, that becoming a LAP school requires that lowest achieving schools, which is affected by our percentage of students who opt out, requires targeted and specialized assistance in order to build school and district capacity to support sustainable school change. This will have an effect on the programming that we have and the funding that we have for out of academic programming. So if you are somebody who pushes members of our community, members of our families and stuff like that to opt out of the testing.
Do you want to
right?
speak with me individually, or
No,
is this for the board?
I'm
'Cause
just bringing this
I don't
up
know
as
that
a
the board
thing.
really needs to hear your beef
Well,
with me. We can talk about
No,
this
I don't have a
individually.
beef.
We can let Ms. Dutcher
Well, you're
finish.
referring to a board member. If you want to direct this at a board member, let's go have a conversation outside of the board table. I don't think any of my board colleagues need to hear this. And everything that you said is a bunch of bullshit. So
Okay,
you can share that with the board. If you want to share it
Look,
with me, you can share
we're
it
not
with
gonna
me.
have a discussion on either side about something that is simply public comment. We're just gonna have the comment, that's it.
I'm just asking
Okay.
if you know.
Yeah, but it seems like
I know what a lab
It's really
school is, and I know
directed
that we are not in danger of that. I do know that opting out can be a problem. Elia addressed it this weekend when we were up at the New York State School Board Association. And in Long Island, where they have 70% opt-out rates, they're not last yet. So I understand what you're saying, and I appreciate it, but I don't want any more discussion about it. Okay?
Excellent use of the gout.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Okay, so he can be rude to me.
I'm sorry about that. That's not my business.
That's all right, we'll have a conversation.
Okay, yes, Ms. Osett.
Here, you know, that my name
Is
is
it a
teacher
full
in
name?
Eldred. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Wait. I just want to congratulate our juniors who were second in the county on SAT scores and above the state average.
Okay,
Go Eldred.
go on.
Wow. Good evening, my name is Colleen Key. I'm not here to fight with anybody or, argue back and forth. I would just like to make a short statement that I've written and hope that it is taken into deep consideration. Okay. My daughter is a student, a ninth grader at Eldred Central District School District. I come in front of this board to express my concern for my child's safety and that of her friends also. Within the year that my child has been here, not only has she been bullied by teachers and coaches, but by other students who attend the school. To say the least, I have not been impressed by the reaction of the persons in charge. In the past, I have met with school officials about the problems. I've already reported them to the office. I've tried to work with the school to help make my daughter's school experience better. At the current time, I've lost all faith with the administration, teachers, and coaches of this school. I should not have to worry about my child when she is sent to school. I should not have to worry about her at school functions. During the homecoming bonfire, my child was physically threatened by a group of students. This was in retaliation for sticking up for her best friend. When all of this came to a head, I sought out who I could find who was in authority to help defuse the situation. I was told by that person that both girls brought the problem on themselves. I've learned that the problem was reported to guidance the day before. I've read the whole code of conduct for this school. Needless to say that none of the steps that are listed were ever taken. So in closing, I'm here demanding that this situation be investigated and proper steps be taken not only to punish the students involved, but to also investigate the conduct of those who were informed of this situation. I am my child's advocate, and I am here to say if the situation continues, I will be forced to bring legal action against the school district. Thank you.
Is there any further public comment? Mr. Clark?
Yes, I once again, I was in trouble making a motion. I have an issue I want to bring before the board. I have an issue I want to bring before the board. I'm only prepared to do it in public. I think I would prefer if we go into executive session. It would be easier for me to explain if we use personalities. There could be pending litigation. There may be agreements. I really think that the board should go to an executive session. And I'll be very brief. I supplied you all with information that I will explain to you later. So,
Mr. Clark, as a public member of the public, you can't request an executive session. Only we can request that here. At this time, What I would like to know and what I would like you to do is communicate with us in writing what concerns you, and then we as a board will take it under advisement and decide if we need an executive session. But we don't get addressed by other people in executive session. So please write down what your concerns are. Tell us what your concerns are, not in this setting, but tell us what your concerns are and let us address them in the way that we're supposed to.
I can tell you my concerns right now.
I think that this is probably not the appropriate venue for that.
I believe there's been misinterpretation of contracts. I was on the board in the 90s, negotiated the contracts. I understand the wording of the contract. I understand what the original intent was, and I believe it's financially detrimental to the district to continue on the path of interpreting those contracts in that manner.
Thank you.
But it also
Is there any other public comment? Yes.
I was very pleased to...
Could you introduce yourself, please?
I'm sorry. Zita Kurtzmaniani, 12 years in district, have served in a variety of capacities, starting as a self-contained special education teacher, integrated co-teacher at the high school, college psychology, CSE, CPSU chairperson, and chose to go back into the classroom and was rewarded with pre-K for the last few years. I was afforded the opportunity by Sullivan County Cooperative Extension for free training. The district had provided the time to do that. For yoga for the classrooms. I was one of 14 educators, 16 people total. There's a community member here who also, as a member of her teaching community, also participated. We had 39 hours of 1 day in the spring and 2.5 days this past fall to learn yoga in the classroom and teacher implementation, so that in our districts we can provide mindfulness, meditation, yoga pieces for our students, for our faculty, for our community members. We can use that with QBIS, with discipline. We can use that for physical education units. We can use it as overall brain breaks, relaxation techniques in the classrooms. I was really so pleased that that opportunity was afforded to us, and I really look forward to the opportunity to help to bring that to Eldred.
Thank you.
Kelly Robertson. Two quick things. Just this past Sunday, members of the Faculty Association participated in the Hudson Valley Strides Against Cancer Walk. So with the help of the association, family and friends, we were able to donate over $600.
Nice.
And also here at Mackenzie, we're doing a school-wide event. It is organized by the second grade. It's called Socktober. And they were inspired by a story that they read about children and families who were hurt by tragedy. And that's obviously happening in the real world. So if you have any socks that you want to donate, bring them down the primary one. New socks.
New socks. We got that. New socks. Yes. Yeah. Otherwise, you should write a children's book about asking for socks and see what you get. Yes. Any other public comment, please? Yes.
Tracy Whitney. I was all this negative, I'm like shaking. I just want to tell you that our girls varsity soccer team went 15-0 officially tonight.
Thank you. Any other public comment? We're a talkative group tonight. No? All right. Can I have a
Motion to adjourn.
No, thank you. Second?
No.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Siegel.
Oh, she meant it.
Oh, you want to talk?
Probably I shouldn't. I take offense to, to the response of one of our board members this evening, to a parent, to a taxpayer, to a member of our community, for the attitude, for the language. I apologize.
Thank you.
And I personally take offense.
I'd like to say something quick.
Okay.
I'd like to have a conversation about what I talked about the other town board, at a school board meeting.
Sorry,
Still waiting for that conversation. You haven't told me to have one.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Mr. Howell.
How can you not hear me? Take the car key out of your ear.
What?
I asked you for a meeting about what you did to the people at the vote that time about a year ago.
Yeah.
You said you wanted to discuss it, so I'm willing to discuss it with you.
Yeah.
Still yet to have a discussion with you.
Was I supposed to schedule a meeting with you, Mr. Howell?
You can schedule a meeting with any time, I'll schedule one with you about it.
We do it in about 5 minutes, all right?
What's that?
We'll do a meeting in about 5 minutes.
No problem.
All right, good.
You got it.
Thank you, sir.
Calling for the vote. Ms. Wagner.
Yes.
Mr. Siegel.
Yes.
Ms. Ms. Bush. Mr. Okay, and I vote yes.
I feel like there's something